I never thought a simple flight home would turn into a year-long legal battle that would end with me owning a piece of aviation history. But when you meet someone like Karen, sometimes the universe has other plans. Let me tell you how a 5-hour flight turned into the most satisfying revenge I've ever orchestrated. It started on a Tuesday morning at Dallas-Fort Worth International. I was heading back to Seattle after closing a deal with one of my commercial real estate clients. I'd splurged on a first-class ticket because, honestly, after 3 days of negotiations, I deserved it. The seat was 2A, right up front, extra legroom, the works. I checked in exactly 24 hours early, selected my seat carefully, and even paid the upgrade fee. Everything was perfectly planned, as I prefer it. I settled into my seat with my laptop, ready to review some contracts during the flight. The cabin was quiet, that peaceful moment before boarding really picks up. That's when I heard her. A voice that can only be described as a foghorn wrapped in entitlement came echoing down the jetway. "Oh my God, this is unacceptable. Do you know who I am? I fly this route every month. If you're enjoying this story so far, do me a favor and smash that like button. And if you want to hear more tales of entitled people getting exactly what they deserve, hit subscribe and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next." Karen appeared in the first-class cabin doorway, and I use the word appeared loosely because it was more of an entrance. She was a large woman, probably around 5'4" and easily over 300 pounds, squeezed into a velour tracksuit that had seen better days. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a scrunchie, and she had that look in her eye, you know the one, the look that says the world owes her something and she's here to collect. The flight attendant, a patient-looking woman named Sarah according to her name tag, was trying to help Karen navigate to her seat. "Ma'am, you're in seat 2B, right here next to this gentleman," Sarah said, gesturing to the seat next to me. My heart sank. Of course. Of course, she was sitting next to me. Karen stopped in the aisle and looked at seat 2B like it had personally offended her. Then she looked at me. Then back at the seat. "This won't work," she announced loudly enough for everyone in first class to hear. "I need more space than this. This seat is way too small." Sarah maintained her professional smile. "Ma'am, this is our first-class seat. It's actually 18 inches wider than our economy seats." Karen cut her off. "I don't care about your measurements. Look at me. Look at the seat. I'm a big girl, okay? I own it. But this airline needs to accommodate me. I have rights." I kept my eyes on my laptop, hoping to stay out of whatever was about to unfold. But hope, as they say, is not a strategy. Karen turned her full attention to me. "Excuse me." "Excuse me, sir. I'm going to need you to move." I looked up slowly, making sure I'd heard her correctly. "I'm sorry, what?" "I need you to move to another seat. I need both of these seats. I can't fit comfortably in just one, and I refuse to be squeezed in like a sardine for 5 hours. So you need to move." She said it with such confidence, such absolute certainty that I would comply, that for a moment I was almost impressed by the audacity. "Ma'am," I said calmly, "I paid for this seat. I selected it specifically. I'm not moving." Her face went red. Not just a little pink, but full-on crimson, like a tomato in a velour tracksuit. "You are so rude. I'm asking you nicely to help out someone in need. Do you have no compassion? No human decency?" Sarah tried to intervene. "Ma'am, perhaps we can find you 2 seats together in economy, or we could see if there are any other options." Karen whirled on her. "Economy? Economy? I paid for first class. I'm not sitting in the back with the common people. This is discrimination. This is fat shaming." The cabin had gone completely silent. Every passenger was watching. Even the people boarding were slowing down, to see what the commotion was about. "Sir," Sarah said to me quietly, "I'm so sorry about this. You absolutely don't have to move. That's your seat, and you're entitled to it." "I can hear you," Karen snapped. "And yes, he's entitled to it, but I'm entitled to basic human dignity. I have a medical condition. I need accommodation. This is covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act. I know my rights." Oh boy! Here we go with the rights speech. I closed my laptop and looked directly at Karen. "Ma'am, I understand you're uncomfortable, but I purchased this specific seat. I'm not moving. Perhaps the flight attendant can help you find an alternative solution." Karen's eyes went wide with disbelief. "Alternative solution?" "The alternative solution is you being a decent human being and moving your ass." A man in seat 4A spoke up. "Ma'am, you can't just demand someone give up their seat. That's not how this works." Karen spun around. "Oh, now we have the peanut gallery chiming in. Everyone's an expert. I bet none of you have ever struggled with weight issues. I bet none of you know what it's like to be discriminated against." Sarah's supervisor, a tall man named Marcus, arrived on the scene. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to lower your voice. We need to find a solution that works for everyone." Karen crossed her arms. "The solution is simple. He moves, I get both seats. Problem solved." "That's not going to happen," Marcus said firmly. "That passenger paid for his seat. However, we do have 2 seats available in row 15 if you'd like to purchase an additional seat." Karen's mouth fell open. "Purchase? Purchase another seat? I already paid for first class. You want me to pay double?" Marcus nodded. "If you require 2 seats, yes, you would need to purchase both seats. That's our policy. Alternatively, we have some single seats available in economy if you'd prefer." "This is outrageous. I'm calling my lawyer. I'm calling the news. This is discrimination, and I will sue this airline and every single person on this plane." Now, I should mention something about myself. I'm a commercial real estate attorney. I specialize in contract law, property disputes, and yes, sometimes aviation law. I've worked on cases involving airlines, airports, and passenger rights. I know the ADA inside and out. I know exactly what qualifies as reasonable accommodation and what doesn't. And this wasn't even close. "Ma'am," I said calmly, "the ADA requires reasonable accommodation. It doesn't require another passenger to give up a seat they purchased. The airline has offered you reasonable alternatives, purchasing a second seat or moving to available seating. That's completely compliant with federal law." Karen's head snapped toward me. "Oh, so now you're a lawyer. What are you, some kind of expert?" I smiled. "Actually, yes. I am a lawyer. I specialize in aviation law among other things. And I'm telling you, you don't have a case. You could have heard a pin drop in that cabin." Karen's face went through several shades of red and purple. You're lying. You're just saying that to shut me up." I reached into my bag and pulled out my business card. I always keep a few on hand. I handed it to her. She looked at it, her eyes scanning the text. "Michael Carrington, J.D., partner, Carrington and Associates, commercial real estate and aviation law." Her hand was shaking. "So as you can see," I continued, "I do know what I'm talking about. The airline is following proper procedure. You have options, but demanding I give up my seat isn't one of them." Marcus looked relieved. "Sir, thank you for that clarification. Ma'am, those are your options. We need to make a decision now because we're delaying the flight." Karen stood there, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Finally, she made her decision. Fine. I'll sit in the damn seat. But I'm filing a complaint against all of you. Especially you," she said, jabbing a finger at me. "You'll regret this. I promise you, you'll regret being so cruel to me." She wedged herself into C2B, and I do mean wedged. She was overflowing into my seat space immediately. Her arm was pressing against mine, her body spilled over the armrest, and I was essentially pinned against the window. Sarah came by. "Sir, I'm so sorry. Would you like to move to another seat? We have 1A available." I shook my head. "No, thank you. I'll stay here." I wasn't about to let Karen think she'd won by driving me away. Call it pride, call it stubbornness, but I'd be damned if I was moving now. The flight took off, and for the next 5 hours, I was in a very special kind of hell. Karen took up every bit of shared space. She kept shifting, sighing loudly, making comments under her breath about how uncomfortable she was, how this was all my fault, how I should have just been nice. She ordered 3 drinks, 2 bags of chips, and a sandwich, all while complaining that the airline seats were discriminatory. Every time I tried to work on my laptop, her elbow would bump into me. When I tried to recline, she complained that I was taking up her space. The irony was not lost on me. But here's the thing about being a lawyer, specifically my kind of lawyer. You learn patience. You learn to play the long game. You learn that the best revenge isn't hot and immediate, it's cold and calculated. And as I sat there, squished against the window, an idea started forming in my mind. A brilliant, perfect, completely legal idea. When we landed in Seattle, Karen made sure to shoulder check me as she waddled past, muttering something about entitled jerks. I watched her go, smiled, and pulled out my phone. I had some calls to make. You see, I'd noticed something during the flight when Karen was ranting about how she flies this route every month, like clockwork, always first class. She'd mentioned she was a sales representative for a beauty company, that she flew Dallas to Seattle and back for business. The next morning, I was in my office, making phone calls. First, I called the airline, not to complain, but to inquire about their passenger size policy. I wanted to understand it completely. Turns out, the airline does have a policy that passengers who cannot fit in a single seat with both armrests down must purchase an additional seat. It's right there in their terms and conditions. Karen should have purchased 2 seats all along. Next, I did something that might seem petty, but trust me, it's important to the story. I looked up Karen's company. Found it easily enough, a mid-level beauty products company. I then used my connections, and yes, I have connections, to find out more about her travel patterns. Turns out, Karen had been bullying her way into single first-class seats for years, making scenes until someone moved, lying about medical conditions, threatening lawsuits. The airline had records of complaints. Dozens of them. But they'd never enforced their policy with her, because it was easier to move other passengers than deal with her tantrums. That was about to change. I drafted a letter, not from me personally, but I may have had a colleague draft it, to the airline's legal department. A very detailed letter outlining the ADA, reasonable accommodation, and their own policy regarding passenger size. I included documentation of Karen's pattern of behavior, her threats, her violations of their terms of service. I suggested that they might want to enforce their policies consistently for legal protection. I may have also mentioned that allowing a passenger to continually violate their terms while harassing other paying customers could open them to liability. The letter was professional, detailed, and completely airtight. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a friend who works in corporate travel. "Mike, did you do something? We just got a memo that the airline is cracking down on their passenger size policy. They're flagging repeat offenders." I smiled. "Is that so? Sounds like they're just enforcing their existing policies." "Yeah, but timing is interesting. They're specifically targeting someone who flies the Dallas to Seattle route monthly." Bingo. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Remember how I mentioned I'm a commercial real estate attorney? Well, I have clients. Lots of clients. Including one who happens to own a significant stake in a company that had just acquired a small regional airline. Over drinks one evening, I mentioned to this client, let's call him David, that I'd had an interesting experience with passenger behavior and airline policies. I may have mentioned that there was a business opportunity in the market for airlines that actually enforce their policies and provide a premium experience for business travelers. David was intrigued. Very intrigued. 6 months later, I was boarding a flight to Dallas. Same route, but different airline. David's company had started a boutique business class only service on select routes, including, you guessed it, Dallas to Seattle. Premium pricing, strict policies, luxury service. And they'd poached several corporate contracts, including the one from Karen's company. I wasn't on that first flight, but I heard about it. Karen showed up expecting to fly first class on her usual airline, only to find her company had switched to the new service. When she tried to board with a single ticket, she was politely informed that based on their measurements and safety regulations, she would need to purchase 2 seats. She tried to make a scene. Tried to play the discrimination card. But this airline had been built with clear policies from day one. They had measuring stations at the gate, clear documentation, and legal backing for every policy. Karen either had to pay for a second seat or not fly. Her company, not wanting the hassle, started booking her 2 seats on every flight and deducting it from her travel budget. But it gets better. Oh, it gets so much better. Remember how I mentioned I have connections? One of my old law school friends works in corporate travel consulting. I may have mentioned to him, over coffee, that some companies could save money by reviewing their travel policies and ensuring employees who require additional accommodations are charged appropriately. It's a cost-saving measure, completely legal and fair. Karen's company implemented a new policy. Employees who required 2 seats for any reason had to either pay for the second seat themselves or have it deducted from their commission. For Karen, who lived off those commissions, this was devastating. Her income dropped by about 30% overnight. But wait, there's more, and this is where it gets truly beautiful. I'd kept tabs on Karen, not in a creepy way, but through the normal channels. Social media, public records, that sort of thing. Turns out, she lived in a condo. A nice condo in a building with, you guessed it, a homeowners association. An HOA with very specific rules about conduct, representation of the building, and behavior that reflects poorly on the community. Now, Karen had been documenting her entire airline ordeal on social media. Every complaint, every threat to sue, every rant about discrimination. She'd posted videos of herself confronting airline staff, making scenes at gates, screaming about her rights. She'd even posted about me, though she didn't know my name, calling me every nasty thing you could imagine. All of this was public. All of it was tied to her real name, her real face. And all of it was, shall we say, not a great look. I may have had someone bring these posts to the attention of her HOA board. Just a concerned citizen, you understand, worried about someone representing the building in such a negative light. The HOA didn't take kindly to it. They sent her a warning about conduct unbecoming of a resident. When she ignored it and continued her social media crusade, they fined her. When she refused to pay the fine and posted about that too, they put a lien on her condo. Karen, being Karen, decided to fight it. She hired a lawyer, a cheap one based on what I could tell, and went to war with her HOA. She lost. Badly. The HOA's rules were clear, and she'd violated them repeatedly. The fines mounted. Her legal fees piled up. And remember, her income had already dropped by 30% due to the airline seat situation. She was drowning financially, and it was all her own doing. But the truly beautiful part, the piece de resistance, came a year after our initial flight. Karen's company, the beauty products company, lost several major contracts. They needed to restructure, cut costs. They started with their sales team, specifically the ones who were costing them the most money. Karen, with her double travel costs and declining sales numbers because she was spending all her time fighting airlines and her HOA instead of working, was at the top of the list. She was let go. Not fired, mind you. They called it restructuring. But the result was the same. No job, mounting legal fees, fines from her HOA, and a tarnished reputation online. All because she couldn't just follow the rules and had to make everything into a battle. I found out about her termination through the grapevine. David, my client with the airline, mentioned it at a business dinner. Remember that passenger you told me about? The one who caused all that trouble? Heard she lost her job. Apparently, she'd become more trouble than she was worth to her company. I nodded sympathetically. That's unfortunate. But actions have consequences. Indeed they do, David agreed. By the way, our new airline is doing fantastic. That Dallas to Seattle route is our most profitable. Premium passengers love the enforced policies. They feel like they're actually getting what they paid for. That's great to hear, I said, and I meant it. I'd helped create something better while simultaneously dismantling Karen's ability to abuse the system. That's efficient revenge. Now, you might be thinking this is where the story ends. But oh no, we're just getting to the good part. About 14 months after our initial flight, I was back at Dallas-Fort Worth International. Same route, heading home to Seattle. I was booked on David's airline, naturally, in a beautiful pod-style seat with all the amenities. I was early, relaxing in the premium lounge, when I heard a commotion at the check-in desk. That voice. That foghorn wrapped in entitlement. I looked over, and there she was. Karen. She looked rough. Her velour tracksuit had been replaced with discount store clothes. Her hair was unkempt. She'd actually lost weight, probably from stress, but she was still a large woman. She was arguing with the gate agent about her ticket. From what I could overhear, she'd booked a single economy seat on a different airline, the budget one, trying to save money. But when she arrived at the gate, they'd informed her she needed to purchase a second seat. I can't afford another seat, she was yelling. I already paid for this ticket. You have to let me fly. The gate agent, a young woman with impressive patience, was trying to explain the policy. Ma'am, I understand, but our safety regulations require that all passengers fit within their assigned seat with the armrests down. If you cannot do that, you need a second seat. This is discrimination. I know my rights. I'm going to sue. The gate agent didn't flinch. Ma'am, this is our policy, and it's clearly stated in our terms and conditions. You agreed to these terms when you purchased your ticket. I watched from my position in the lounge, sipping my coffee. I could have walked away. Should have walked away. But curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see how this played out. Karen was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. Please, I have to get home. I have a job interview. It's my only chance. I can't afford another seat. Please, isn't there anything you can do? The gate agent looked genuinely sympathetic. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I don't have the authority to override this policy. If you can't purchase the second seat, I can help you rebook for another time, or you can request a refund. I can't rebook. The interview is tomorrow. And I need the refund money for rent. Karen was falling apart right there in the terminal. Part of me felt bad. A small part. The much larger part remembered being squished against a window for 5 hours while she complained and threatened. The part that remembered her shoulder checking me, her social media posts, her absolute refusal to take responsibility for anything. Then Karen looked up, and our eyes met. For a moment, she didn't recognize me. Then her eyes widened. "You," she breathed. She stumbled toward me, and I stood up, maintaining a safe distance. "You? You did this. You did all of this to me." I raised an eyebrow. "I'm sorry. I'm not sure what you mean." "Don't play dumb. Everything fell apart after that flight. The airline policies, my job, my HOA, everything. This is your fault. You ruined my life." People were staring now. Security was starting to move in our direction. I kept my voice calm and level. "Ma'am, I didn't force you to violate airline policies. I didn't force you to post aggressive rants on social media. I didn't force you to fight with your HOA. Those were all your choices. You reported me. You got me fired. I've never contacted your employer. But if you were terminated, perhaps it was because of your own behavior and performance." Karen lunged forward, and security was there instantly, grabbing her arms. "You're a monster. You destroyed everything. All because I asked you to move seats. One time." I looked her directly in the eye. "No, Karen. All because you refused to follow rules that apply to everyone. All because you thought making scenes and threatening people would get you what you wanted. All because you never learned that your actions have consequences. I didn't ruin your life. You did that all by yourself. I just made sure the systems you were abusing started working properly." Security was pulling her back now, saying something about escorting her out of the terminal. Karen was still screaming. "I'll sue you. I'll take everything. You'll pay for this." "Good luck with that," I called after her. "I'm sure your lawyer, if you can afford one, will explain why you don't have a case." As they led her away, she turned one last time, her face a mask of rage and disbelief. In that moment, it finally hit her. The airline policies that had been enforced. The job she'd lost. The HOA problems. The financial spiral. She'd never connected all the dots until right now. She'd thought it was all just bad luck, just the universe being cruel. But now, looking at my calm face, my expensive suit, the premium lounge access, she understood. She finally understood that every single domino had been carefully set up, and she'd been the one to knock over the first one. Her mouth opened in a silent scream of realization as security pulled her around the corner. I sat back down, picked up my coffee, and checked my watch. My flight was boarding in 20 minutes. If you enjoyed this story of ultimate karma, please hit that like button and subscribe to Karen Eat World for more tales of entitled people getting exactly what they deserve. Drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in my situation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.